Hello, all, and welcome to Mental Health and You for CAP Retreat 2020.
We live together, that's why we're not wearing masks. You should be wearing a mask.
Wear a mask. All right, on today's agenda, we have why is this important? Meet your generation, Gen Z, knowing your terms and symptoms, mindset barriers, mental health stigma, what we can do, and some GVSU resources.
You might be wondering, why is this such an important topic that we need to be discussing it during a programming organization's retreat? Well, the numbers speak for themselves. We look at various statistics we have here. 1 in 4 students were either treated for or diagnosed with anxiety in 2017. Over 80% of college students felt overwhelmed by all the obligations they had in the past year. 45% of those students, by the way, felt hopeless with this task load. Over 50% of college students had suicidal thoughts, and 1 in 10 seriously considered attempting suicide. The statistics go on. Nearly 1 in 3 college students report feeling so depressed that they had trouble functioning in the last 12 months. The statistics speak for themselves. Mental health is a growing trend in higher education, and it affects all students, but especially our student leaders who take on extra responsibilities, i.e. our CAP students. So let's look deeper into Grand Valley statistics. 47.3% of GV students feel like they experienced more than average stress last year. Around 33% of those students noted that their stress impacted their academic performance. And you're here to get a degree, so we want to make sure that that path has little to no barriers. Stress could be one of those barriers, however. And additionally, 27% of Grand Valley students were either diagnosed or treated for anxiety in 2018. This is a growth from 2014 when only 14.9% of students were diagnosed with anxiety. So as we can see, this is a growing concern we're handling right here. We want to make sure we're giving you the terminology, the tools to make sure that you can better your own life and take care of your own mental health.
All right, so let's talk about the college context. For many students, this is the first time that they're going to be experiencing a lot of new stressors independently without their families. So some of these stressors for our students can be increased independence, academics, social media, roommate relationships, student debt and financial stress, and deciding a career path. So for the CAP context, especially right now during COVID, we have a limited number of face-to-face time with our members. Missing out on planning traditional events due to COVID-19 restrictions can be sad. Elevated stress of balancing an online course structure is definitely something brand new to most CAP members.
So let's meet Gen Z. And by the way, you're Gen Z. So this is kind of like meeting yourself right now. So your generation and this upcoming generation of students is vulnerable to many mental health concerns. And this is due to a lot of factors, one of the main ones being the context of the era you've grown up in. Gen Z reports that they feel stressed about big topics like mass shootings, suicide rates, global warming, our democratic systems, whereas older generations really haven't felt this stress in as many high numbers. In fact, Gen Z, compared with other generations, is least likely to report good or excellent mental health. And so really, this whole generation is kind of experiencing a mental health crisis that maybe older adults may not understand. So it's important that we equip ourselves with the knowledge to help our mental health well-being. Additionally, we talked about crisis. Gen Z has grown up in crisis. The oldest Gen Zers are turning 23 this year, and they were only 11 during the 2008 Great Recession and just 3 years old during 9/11. This makes COVID-19, the whole pandemic, kind of the first major historical event this generation has really had to contend with firsthand independently. It's the first time this has really affected you rather than like your family and then trickle down affecting you. Additionally, Gen Z is the most socially active generation. The news is, however, a regular source of stress for them because they're so tuned in, they can't really escape it. And like we mentioned, particular issues really fire up Gen Z, especially school shootings, systemic racism, and climate change. Additionally, Gen Z has depleting mental health. Only 18.5% of surveyed Gen Z students reported that they felt happy often during the pandemic, which has been happening since around March. They've had to deal with the loss of structure, key developmental milestones in their high school life and college lives, and just the unending certainty of the academic year. Additionally, our students are some of the most hardest working in the classroom, but this can equate to stress outside the classroom as well. Academic competition is a major stressor for students, especially those who identified as being high achieving in high school students. or in high achieving. One reason for this is because of changing generation norms. For a lot of Gen Z students, the goal of college, you want to get that next job, elevate your status because you've been told it's the way to succeed. Earlier generations, they sought out the university education for more intrinsic values, for more social values. The more students perceive your environment in any way to be competitive, the more likely you're experiencing symptoms of anxiety. So it's important to have conversations with each other around your worth beyond your grades. As many of the high achieving students we have here find their first drop in expected GPA to be a source of intense stress, especially as we're transitioning to online learning. Your GPA might not look the way you expect it to look because you're having to handle a lot of different issues.
All right, and so one of the important things is knowing your terms and symptoms. So stress. Stress is a response to an external situation that places pressure on a person, such as a challenging course, a tight deadline, or an uncomfortable conversation. Everyone encounters stress, and it can even be good in some situations. Stress is normal. Anxiety, on the other hand, is a sense of uneasiness, dread, or distress. Certain levels are normal in everyday situations or when facing big changes. Some students, however, can suffer from an anxiety disorder, which is debilitating. If stress is the response to external situations, anxiety is the response to internal situations. Anxiety disorder is displaying excessive worry during most days about a variety of things, including routine life circumstances. This can be disruptive to one's life. Symptoms include excessive worrying, interfering with work or social life, having worries that pop up and spread, not limited to specific concerns. Panic attacks. So many students will experience panic attacks for the first time during college. It's a sudden display of intense fear or stress that triggers severe physical reactions and can be very frightening. So panic attacks can show up as accelerated heart rate, sweating, shaking or trembling, shortness of breath, and feeling of impending sense of doom or loss of control. Depression is a loss of meaning, vitality, and hope. It can be debilitating and severely impact one's ability to perform routine aspects of life. So some of the more notable symptoms that we think of a lot are frequent sad mood, lethargy or persistent boredom, self-isolation, and low self-esteem. But depression can also look like an extreme sensitivity to rejection or failure, major changes in sleeping or eating patterns, which it would be either sleeping way more or way less than usual, eating way more or way less than usual, as well as increased irritability and a feeling of emptiness.
So when you have a lot of stress and a lot of anxieties and depression, eventually, if you don't take care of yourself, you can get burnt out. So let's talk about what burnout means. Burnout is a consistent feeling of exhaustion, depersonalization, and a lower feeling of personal accomplishment. This occurs among people who work in roles that primarily serve other people. As CAP students, we serve the whole student body, so you could be susceptible to burnout. Some symptoms of burnout include exhaustion, a lack of motivation, some frustration, cynicism, other negative emotions, or even some numbness to hard times, cognitive problems, slipping job performance, interpersonal problems, a lack of self-care, a constant preoccupation of what you have to do on your to-do list. When you complete your to-do list, do you feel satisfied? If you don't, you might have burnout. Additionally, if uncared for, this can lead to some other health problems as well. So some factors that play, especially for student leaders into burnout, includes role ambiguity. Role ambiguity is the feeling an individual gets when they feel like their job description is kind of like unclear or uncertain, and they don't really know what's expected of them within a certain role. So you as a student leader need to make sure you're talking to your VPs about what is my role in CAB, so that you have clear expectations of what you need to do. Students may experience role ambiguity when entering a new leadership position, or a position they hold is changing, or when their roles conflict with other identities. For example, if you're an RA, sometimes they struggle with role ambiguity because they have to play the role as a policy enforcer, but they're also supposed to be a community friend. So that can kind of lead to some mixed feelings with the role ambiguity. Another problem we face that leads to burnout is compassion fatigue. This is also called vicarious traumatization or secondary trauma. It's the emotional residue or strain of exposure to working with those suffering from the consequences of traumatic events. And it differs from burnout, but it often coexists. It's kind of like having a lot of different tabs open in your mind, and you're expected to care about all those tabs equally. Like you care about climate change and voting, and also your academics and your parents and work and COVID and feeding your dog and everything, and you have all these tabs open and you feel like you can't close any of them without feeling bad. And this is becoming increasingly common. Like we said earlier, Gen Z is very connected to the news and the world, and they also feel a strong sense of responsibility for the world around them. And so therefore they feel like they can't really close those tabs, and they get fatigued by how much they care, compassion fatigue. Additionally, Gen Z suffers a lot from comparative suffering, and this is the idea that your trauma and suffering is somehow diminished because of the presence of another person's trauma or suffering that you in your mind perceive as more severe. It's the idea that like, oh, I can't use the counseling center because that's only for students who are feeling this unwell, and I only feel this unwell. It's the idea that, well, someone needs X resource more than I, and this prevents you from actually reaching out and getting help. For example, we have Replenish downstairs in the Kirchhoff Center. That's for students who are hungry and need food. So if you like forget your lunch one day and you don't want to spend money because it's not in your budget to go get Panda, you can use Replenish. But a lot of students feel like they have to be at a certain level of poverty in order to use that resource. But really, it's for all students. I could go down and get food from Replenish. And that doesn't mean I'm taking it away from any other student who needs it more, because that is a resource to serve all students. So comparative suffering might prevent you from getting the help you need because you're imagining some imaginary student out there who is going to somehow be at a loss because you used a resource. And this simply isn't true. We have resources for students to use.
All right, so what can we do? So Recwell has actually compiled this really awesome wellness wheel. So these are all the pillars of wellness. So first up, we've got physical wellness. Physical wellness is about making positive choices to maintain a healthy body, from engaging in regular physical activity, sleep, and eating nutritious foods, drinking responsibly if you're of age, and routinely visiting your healthcare providers for regular checkups. I'll also personally add drinking water. Environmental wellness is what inspires us to respect our surroundings and involves feeling and being safe in your current environment. Financial wellness includes things like your income, savings, and expenses, as well as how you understand your financial situation and resources. Intellectual wellness includes your educational journey through life, including formal classroom learning, as well as your hobbies, tab, or interests. So student orgs tab, art, reading, learning a new sport, etc., where you take part in discussions or conversations that you find interesting with others. Occupational wellness is your involvement in activities like volunteering, employment, or career preparation. It also includes your balance between these things and the time that you have for things you enjoy, like friends, exercising, or whatever you do to relax. Emotional wellness involves expressing your feelings, adjusting to challenges, coping with the stress that life brings, and enjoying your life. Social wellness is about maintaining healthy relationships with your friends, family, and community. It includes how you spend time in the community with others, your social life, and meeting new people. Spiritual wellness is about understanding your own values, beliefs, and taking time to deepen your spirituality. All right, and so 10 ways that you can start self-care from Psychology Today. So make sleep part of your self-care routine. Please sleep. It can feel very easy to stay up till 2 a.m. working on, homework and then get up for your 8 a.m. synchronous online class, but that's just, it's not self-care. Go to sleep. Exercise daily as part of your self-care routine. So gyms are closed, so you can try walking, tennis. We have some awesome tennis courts on campus, yoga, etc. Eat right for self-care. Please eat your fruits and vegetables. Ramen is tasty, but it can't be every meal. Say no to others and say yes to your self-care. If you do not have it within your capacity to do everything, it's okay to say no. Take a self-care trip. Drive to the town over and see the sights, or go camping nearby. So if you want to just drive and explore Grand Rapids or maybe walk around town, that's awesome. If you want to go camping in Holland and you have free time on the weekend, go ahead and do it. Take a self-care break by getting outside. So that goes along with exercise. Just go take a walk or just sit out on, a bench somewhere and just like breathe, be outside. Take care of yourself by getting organized. Make sure that you have everything in your planners, in your calendar, so that you don't have things that pop up and surprise you and bring stress. Sit at home to care for yourself. So most res halls have kitchens available to you. So just sometimes just making spaghetti, feeling like a homemade meal is just really good for you. Read a book on self-care for self-care. Personally, I've listened to on Audible, Girl Wash Your Face and Girl Stop Apologizing. Not everything in those books really applied to me, but it was still really motivational. And schedule self-care time and guard that time with everything you have. Wake up 15 minutes earlier to give yourself time to sit with a cup of tea and practice deep breathing before your hectic day. Personally, I always wake up early, so I just have time to actually wake up before I get going with my day. And so here are some GVSU resources that we have. The GVSU Counseling Center is adapting to make sure that they are adhering to all of the COVID safety recommendations for students and staff. So they're doing teletherapy this year. Short-term teletherapy services are available to currently enrolled students, and you can schedule an appointment with that phone number. You can also do phone consultations if you need assistance finding a community provider. So Ottawa and Kent County have lots of providers in the area, and they can help you out with that. So if you feel like I need to talk to somebody now, these feelings are not okay, and you believe you might harm yourself or do something that would impact you negatively later, the emergency phone consultations during office hours are available for all enrolled students. For after-hours crisis consultations, visit our emergency site to utilize off-campus and national resources. So the current office hours in Allendale are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then while they're staffed, that's their phone number again.
The Counseling Center also has a lot of self-directed resources as well. So if you are noticing that you're feeling a specific concern, you can go onto the Counseling Center website and they have a self-help directory. So lots of activities that you can walk yourself through. So for example, let's say you suffer from perfectionism. You can actually go onto the Counseling Center website, go to the self-help directory, click on perfectionism, and they have workbooks you can do. They have TED Talks, they have action plans for how to overcome your perfectionism. And they have these resource links to a variety of different concerns you may have, including adjusting to college, anger, anxiety, depression, disordered eating and body image, grief and loss especially might be one to check out this year because we're kind of, in a grief process of what we're losing for the fall semester. Healthy relationships, intrusive thoughts, loneliness, perfectionism, self-compassion and heart, sleep, stress, time management, and trauma. If you're experiencing any of these at any level, the Counseling Center website is a great place to start. Additionally, like we mentioned, they have that self-help directory that offers so many other things, including an online screening. This is a short test you can take to help you decide if the symptoms you're experiencing may require further assistance. For example, earlier we talked about stress being normal, but there's a level where you actually do need to get help. So if you take the online screening, that can kind of point you in the right path to getting some assistance. Additionally, let's say you want to use a community provider in the Grand Rapids area. They have an entire list of mental health care providers in the region. You can sort them by the insurance you have, by the specialty you want decided. If you want art therapy, if you want just a consultation. And then specifically you can sort them by the issues you're experiencing, whether that's career issues or stress or depression. Additionally, we mentioned earlier, they've got those self-help tips for personal issues. They also have diversity resources as well to assist you in celebrating your unique identity and also assist you in becoming an advocate for our marginalized populations on campus. Additionally, they've got explorations in relaxation techniques, so you can search for tools to calm your mind. They've got mindfulness, meditation, deep breathing audio, all tools on the website to help you achieve meditation and mindfulness. And finally, they've got self-help applications, so literal phone apps you can download to help you with self-care. Additionally, Grand Valley's Recwell has an entire guide here that can walk you through all those pillars of wellness that Mary talked about. So if you want ideas for physical wellness, environmental or social wellness, financial or occupational wellness, intellectual or emotional wellness, or spiritual wellness, this guide has all the resources you need, including a list of which offices can specifically help you with these specific concerns. So finally, we just want to wrap up and remind you that as an employee of Grand Valley, your advisors are mandated reporters. We're going to be talking to you a lot about mental health and self-care this year because we want to empower you as you navigate this semester. However, just keep in mind as a disclosure, if you disclose a violation of Title IX or an intention to harm yourself or others, your advisors need to report that to Grand Valley for your safety. So if you are experiencing troubles with these topics, we encourage you to reach out to the various university resources that can help you navigate those. But just as a disclaimer, we're definitely going to be talking about some hard subjects this year, but we are also university employees, so there are some limits to what we can discuss. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.